Welcome to Bookkast. You know the deal. Bestsellers in minutes. And today we're diving into Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. It's a fantasy novel that's really been taking the book world by storm.
It's a really good one.
So for our listeners out there who want to get like the key takeaways, plot, characters, themes, like all that juicy stuff,
Yeah.
without, slogging through
Right.
hundreds of pages, we're going to unpack it all for you today. So let's start with the protagonist,
Okay.
Violet Sorrengail. She's not your typical dragon-riding warrior, is she?
No, she's not. She's actually described as physically frail.
Interesting.
Yeah, more suited to like a scholar's life
Oh,
than the brutal training of dragon riders.
right.
But this fish out of water scenario, that's what makes her so relatable.
I see.
You just instantly root for her because she's facing these incredible challenges that she never asked for.
Oh, totally. And why is she being forced into this life? I mean, it's not exactly a walk in the park, is it?
Well, it boils down to her mother, who is a powerful general with a lot of enemies. And so Violet's basically a pawn in her game of political chess.
Oh, my gosh.
It's a dangerous situation, Makes you wonder if she can even survive, let alone thrive in this cutthroat world.
Right. It almost sounds like a really twisted coming-of-age story where, like, the stakes are unbelievably high.
Exactly.
Oh, gosh.
And speaking of high stakes, let's talk about the world of Navarre. It's a kingdom protected by dragon-powered wards, constantly at war with a rival land called Poromil,
Okay.
which relies on griffin riders. So, you immediately get the sense that resources are scarce.
Yeah.
And tensions are running high.
Right. Which honestly sounds a lot like what's happening
Yeah.
in our world today. It makes you think about how conflicts escalate,
Mm-hmm.
the lengths people will go to for survival.
Exactly. I think Yarros does a really great job of weaving these themes of scarcity and conflict into her world, making it feel surprisingly relevant.
Totally. So we've got a relatable heroine
Yes.
world on the brink of war.
Yeah.
Now we need a dash of romance. Right. Enter Xaden Rierson. What can you tell us about him?
He's the classic brooding,
Oh, yeah. We would love that.
skilled warrior, and Violet is immediately drawn to him,
Mhm.
but there's a twist. He's the son of the man who betrayed Navarre years ago. Talk about a complicated relationship.
Okay, whoa. That's a serious red flag.
Yeah,
I'd be a little suspicious too, honestly.
right.
So, do we think this enemies to lovers trope actually works here, or is it doomed from the start?
Ooh, that's a great question. And I think it's something the book explores really well. Violet has every reason to distrust Cinnamon,
Yeah.
but there's an undeniable chemistry between them. It's a slow burn filled with tension and uncertainty, so it makes their interactions really compelling.
Oh, I love that. And all this is happening while Violet is trying to survive the brutal training required to become a dragon rider. What are some of the trials she faces?
Well, Fourth Wing is packed with action.
Mhm.
One of the most intense scenes is the threshing, where young riders hope to be chosen by a dragon. It's chaotic.
Oh, my gosh.
It's dangerous. It's a ritual. And not everyone makes it out alive.
That sounds terrifying. I can just imagine the adrenaline pumping as they're waiting to see if a dragon will choose them.
Right.
Then there's the whole issue of the signet powers, right?
Right.
What can you tell us about those?
Oh, yeah, the signets, they're fascinating. So dragons can grant riders unique abilities, and they vary.
Okay.
Some are really cool, like illusions or enhanced strength, while others are
Right.
downright terrifying. And what's really interesting is that they seem to reflect the rider's personality
Wow.
and their potential.
So it's not just about physical strength or skill. It's about like who you are at your core.
Exactly.
And that brings us to Violet's signet power,
Yes.
which is rumored to be world-altering. I mean, how do you even begin to handle that kind of responsibility?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The book really explores this idea of power
Mhm.
and its potential to corrupt. Makes you wonder, if you were suddenly thrust into a position of immense power,
Right.
how would you handle it?
That's a lot to think about. But before we get too deep into those philosophical questions,
Okay.
I wanted to circle back to the training itself.
Right.
I know there are betrayals, hidden agendas, shocking revelations along the way. Can you tease us with some of the twists and turns without giving too much away?
Well, let's just say that not everyone is who they seem. Violet learns that even her closest friend might be keeping secrets.
Oh my gosh.
And her mother's actions have far-reaching consequences that she never anticipated.
Okay, that's enough to make anyone paranoid. And I'm guessing all of this leads to some pretty intense emotional turmoil for Violet.
Absolutely. It's not just about physical survival. It's about navigating these complex relationships.
Right.
Questioning everything she's ever believed in.
Yeah.
And ultimately discovering who she truly is.
It sounds like Fourth Wing is just a whirlwind of action, romance, and intrigue all wrapped up in this fascinating fantasy world. And you're telling me this is just the beginning?
Oh, you haven't seen anything yet. There are epic battles, heartbreaking betrayals, and shocking revelations that will leave you reeling. But I think for now, our listener needs a moment to digest all of this.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground
Yeah.
in just a few minutes, but we're just getting started with our deep dive into Fourth Wing.
We are.
You're right, we've barely scratched the surface. But that's what makes Bookkast so great. We give you a taste of the bestsellers in minutes.
Yeah.
So you can decide if you want to dive into the full story. We'll be back soon with part 2 of our deep dive.
Yeah.
Where we'll unpack even more of the juicy details, including Violet's relationship with Xaden and the challenges she faces as her powers grow.
Until then, keep those wings ready for flight. Picking up where we left off, Violet's thrown into this crazy intense training regimen, and it's fascinating how she has to adapt from, scholar to warrior in a matter of weeks.
Yeah, she really is thrown into the deep end. It makes me wonder if her initial weakness might actually be a strength in disguise. Does it force her to think outside the box? Maybe find creative solutions that others wouldn't consider because she doesn't have the traditional...
Totally. That's a really good observation.
Yeah.
And you're right, Violet's unconventional approach does give her an edge in certain situations. She has to rely on her intellect and adaptability, which sometimes proves more valuable than just brute strength.
Right. And let's not forget about Taryn, her dragon. He's not exactly the cuddly, friendly type, is he? What's their dynamic like?
No, he's not. Taryn is a force to be reckoned with, that's for sure. He's huge, he's powerful, and has a rather demanding personality. He's constantly pushing Violet to her limits.
Right.
But you can tell he sees her potential.
Yeah.
He wants her to succeed. There's a reason for his tough love approach.
It's almost like a mentor-student relationship, but with a lot more fire breathing involved. Does he ever show signs of affection, or is it just all business all the time?
Yeah, he's definitely not one to shower her with praise.
Right.
But there are these subtle moments where you can sense a growing bond between them. Taryn has a deep understanding of the dangers that Violet faces, and he's determined to prepare her for the challenges ahead, even if it means being a little harsh at times.
Right. Speaking of challenges, let's talk about the unbonded riders. They add a whole other layer of danger to the story.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You mentioned before that, if a bonded rider dies, their dragon becomes available.
Right.
That creates a very high-stakes environment.
It does. It really does. These unbonded riders are desperate to form a bond.
Right.
And they're willing to do whatever it takes.
Oh, my gosh.
To achieve that goal.
Yeah.
So, Violet isn't just competing with her fellow trainees.
Yeah.
She's a target for these individuals who see her as an obstacle in their path.
So it's not enough that she has to worry about surviving the training and navigating the complex social dynamics.
Exactly.
She also has to watch her back for potential saboteurs.
Yeah.
Talk about pressure.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
No walk in the park, that's for sure. But thankfully, she's not entirely alone in all of this. Violet forms some unexpected alliances that really prove crucial to her survival.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
She has Rhiannon, her loyal friend who helps her with combat skills.
Right.
And Dane, her childhood friend, who's now a squad leader.
Yeah.
But I feel like even those relationships are complicated.
They are. Rhiannon is steadfast and supportive, but she even has secrets that she's keeping from Violet. And then Dane, while well-intentioned, often struggles to balance his loyalty to Violet with his adherence to the rules of the quadrant.
Right. And then, of course, there's Xaden. He's a bit of an enigma, isn't he?
Yeah.
A rule breaker with a mysterious past.
Yeah, he is a fascinating character, Xaden. He's skilled, he's enigmatic, and he's clearly carrying a heavy burden.
Yeah.
On the surface, he and Violet are rivals.
Right.
But their connection runs deeper than that. As they spend more time together, their relationship evolves. It becomes this delicate dance of attraction, suspicion, and shared vulnerability.
I have to admit, I'm a sucker for a good enemies-to-lovers storyline.
Of course, who would?
But I'm always a little wary of it. Sometimes it feels forced or unrealistic. Does Yarros manage to pull it off convincingly here?
I think she does. I think what makes it work in Fourth Wing is that the tension between Violet and Xaden isn't just about physical attraction.
Right.
It's rooted in their shared experiences, their struggles, and the secrets they both carry. Their relationship unfolds gradually,
Yeah,
And their feelings for each other develop organically as they face these challenges
I see.
and learn to trust one another.
Yeah. You mentioned secrets earlier. I know there's a big reveal about Azin's past.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit more about that without spoiling it for our listener?
Well, what I can say is that the revelation about Xaden's past ties directly into the larger conflict
Okay.
between Navarre and Borromeo. It turns out that the history of the war is far more complicated than anyone realized.
Wow.
And there are all these hidden agendas
Oh my gosh.
and political machinations at play that have been shaping events for generations.
Okay, that definitely piques my interest. And I'm guessing that this revelation has a major impact on Violet's relationship with Satan.
Absolutely. It forces her to reevaluate everything she thought she knew about him. And it raises these really difficult questions about trust and loyalty.
Yeah.
She has to decide whether to believe in him, even when the evidence seems stacked against him.
It sounds like Fourth Wing is so much more than just this thrilling fantasy adventure.
It is.
It's about navigating these complex relationships, challenging assumptions, and uncovering the truth, even when it's painful.
You're exactly right. And that's what makes it so compelling. It's not just about dragons and battles. It's about human connection and resilience and that search for identity in a world that's constantly trying to define you.
Well, you've definitely got me hooked. I can't wait to find out what happens next, especially with this big revelation about Layden's past kind of hanging in the air. But before we move on to part 3, I think our listener might want a moment to catch their breath.
It's a lot to take in.
We've covered a lot of ground here, and the story just keeps getting more intense.
Yeah, it does.
But you're right, we've only just begun to explore the depths of this world and its characters.
Yeah,
But that's the beauty of a deep dive like this.
exactly.
You can unpack these complexities
Yeah,
of a bestseller in minutes,
right.
giving you a taste of the story's richness without overwhelming you with the details.
Exactly.
And for those of you who are craving more, we'll be back soon with the final part of our Fourth Wing deep dive. We'll delve into those epic battles, heartbreaking betrayals, and shocking revelations that await Violet as she confronts her destiny. So stay tuned. Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into Fourth Wing. We've heard about the brutal training, the complex relationships, and those shocking secrets, but now let's talk about the epic showdown.
Yeah.
The culmination of everything Violet's been working towards.
And I think what's so fascinating here is that the war games, which are supposed to be the final test for these young riders, they become a real-life battle for survival. It's like someone flipped a switch and turned a training exercise into an all-out war.
Yeah, talk about trial by fire. They get sent beyond the wards into enemy territory, and their mission just quickly goes sideways.
Totally. It's like everything that could go wrong does.
Yeah, and to make matters worse, Violet's still dealing with that revelation about Azin's past.
Right.
She's trying to process her feelings for him while also facing down this, potentially deadly threat. That's a lot for anyone to handle, especially someone who's still trying to find her footing in this dangerous world.
Absolutely. It's like she's being pulled in a million different directions.
Yeah.
She has to fight for survival,
Right.
figure out who she can trust, come to terms with the fact that the world isn't as black and white as she once thought it was.
Right. And amidst all this chaos, there's that scene, I think it really stands out, the attack on the trading post.
Oh, yeah.
It's brutal. It's devastating.
It's awful.
And it really showcases the true horrors of war.
It
I remember that scene so vividly. It's where Violet's true power is unleashed, but it comes at a terrible cost.
Yeah,
She loses someone close to her, someone who has been fiercely loyal and supportive throughout her whole journey.
And that loss, I think, is such a turning point for her.
Yeah.
It really hardens her resolve, but it also breaks her heart.
Right.
She's forced to confront the brutal realities of war and the sacrifices that it demands. And it's such a moment of growth for her character.
Yeah.
But it's also so painful to witness.
Yeah. It makes you question whether any victory is worth such a high price.
It really does.
And it's not just about personal loss either.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Violet also sees the devastating effects of the Venin, those creatures created by forbidden magic.
Right. The Venin add this whole other layer of horror to the story.
Oh, yeah.
They're like a plague consuming everything in their path.
Yeah.
And it's this chilling reminder of the stakes involved in this conflict. It's not just about territory or resources.
Yeah.
It's about the survival of humanity itself.
Right. It makes the whole conflict feel even more urgent,
Right.
more desperate. And then on top of everything else, Violet uncovers this shocking truth about her own family. We talked earlier about how her mother is this powerful general,
Right.
someone she's always looked up to.
Mm-hmm.
But it turns out her mother has been keeping this dark secret.
Yeah.
One that has, like, far-reaching consequences.
And this revelation is just such a gut punch.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it completely shatters Violet's world, makes her question everything she thought she knew about her family, about her kingdom, and about her place in it. It's a moment of profound disillusionment.
Right.
But it also leads to, I think, a very powerful realization.
That she can't just blindly follow orders or accept the status quo anymore.
Right. She has to think for herself.
Right.
Make her own choices,
Right.
even if it means challenging those in authority.
So Fourth Wing, it's more than just this fantasy adventure with dragons and battles.
Totally.
It's a story about finding your voice and
Yeah.
fighting for what's right and confronting these uncomfortable truths, even when they're about the people that you care about the most.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And I think it's this depth of character and the exploration of these complex themes that makes it such a rewarding read.
Right. And of course, we can't forget about the ending.
Oh my God.
It's a huge cliffhanger that leaves you wanting,
Totally.
like, desperate for the next book in the series.
You know, Yarros is such a master at keeping her readers on the edge of their seats.
Yeah.
She just weaves together this action and romance and political intrigue, and it culminates in a finale that's both satisfying and utterly unpredictable. You're left wanting more.
Yeah.
You know, you're eager to see what happens next for Violet and for the fate of Navarre.
So there you have it. Fourth Wing.
Yeah.
In a nutshell. Or at least as much of a nutshell as we can manage in, just a few minutes.
Yeah.
A captivating blend of fantasy romance and heart-pounding action that will leave you breathless.
Absolutely. And as always, remember that this deep dive is just a taste of what the book has to offer, you know? If you are craving a story that will challenge you and surprise you and stay with you long after you finish that last page, you definitely won't want to miss Fourth Wing.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on Bookkast, where we bring you bestsellers in minutes. Don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the books everyone's talking about. And here's a final thought to ponder. If you had a world-altering signet power, what would it be and how would it change you? Until next time, happy reading